Welcome to the official Otaku Crew podcast. I'm Zen, and I'll be your host today. Joining with me today will be Tensa the Aroused,
Ara
Rek,
ara.
Rek the Endeavor,
What's up?
and Hammy the Fluffy. Thank you all for lending us your ears today. And while you're at it, don't forget to check out the other awesome places to find us: Anchor.fm, Spotify, and you can also check out the official Otaku Crew on YouTube. And a quick shout out and thank you to NordVPN for helping making this episode possible. So, guys, what would you do with a Death Note? That is today's talking subject. So, anybody would like to go first? How about you, Tensa? What would you like to do with a Death Note?
There's a lot of things, and I don't even know where to begin. But as everybody knows, I'll start by taking a potato chip.
I'll take a potato chip and eat it.
Yes.
But honestly, because of how the Death Note is a very powerful artifact, I don't think I would be very different from Light in the sense that eliminating crime and eliminating crime rate is a very good incentive to use it in the first place. It just so happens that I would try to be more careful and limit the killing
Mhm.
because you want to make a better world, but you don't want people to notice that there is a hand in it. Yeah, so in this case, I would try to make it look as natural as possible, which also means that I would have to literally make custom deaths for literally everyone that I write, so that way it just stays conspicuous. But at the very same time, it will take more time for me to realize the dream, and I might actually fail precisely because I take more time.
I mean, that's a pretty understandable point of view, I'd say. How would you say it'd be different from how Light used it? Apart from, being more careful.
When I mean being more careful, you have to take from everybody who actually owned a Death Note in the series, either Kira, ex-Kira, or C-Kira, or the idiot that tries to auction the Death Note.
The next item up for auction is an
Death Note.
from the tomb of King Balassi of Sumeria.
300,000.
Very well,
$300,000 and 1 cent.
500,000. Now back off, you little brat.
Wow, Miss Keene, that's a lot of money for someone like you. $2 million.
Sold!
I love it. Yeah, I'm gonna put it in my bathroom.
The best way to do it is literally do not go on mass killing. Like, do not go on a mass killing spree. That would be the first step for me.
Okay.
Because what seems to give it away for there is Kira is the mass killing spree in jail,
Mhm.
which in a sense, it's a good way to clear out prisoners and send the fear of God in them. But at the very same time, it's also what gave it away the continuous activities, which is what made it a problem. The other issue that I had with it is that the more you use it, the more that you kind of lose yourself in it. In the sense of, if I were to mass use it, eventually I would start thinking about how there are people in my way, and everybody in my way is automatically.
So you'd get
I
kind
do
of drawn
not.
into the power.
So the point of not using it too much is to not get corrupted as quickly, and to actually take intervals of breaks. So that way, it doesn't lead to you as quickly.
Alrighty. Makes sense. What about you, Rec? Out of curiosity, what would you do with a Death Note?
Well, it's like Tensa said, the Death Note itself is a very powerful tool, probably the most dangerous and most meme-worthy from what I've seen online. Because every time I go on, like, Google or anything, I would always see, like, okay, gather your weapons, and you would see people bring up, like, the Infinity Gauntlet or Kingdom Hearts swords. But then you have that one person who just has the Death Note, and everyone
Well-
else is terrified.
Fair enough.
Well, it is an artifact of doom.
It is. The
Death
one
Note-
thing, and to handle such an artifact of doom, you also have to follow a certain set of rules. Luckily, within the Death Note itself, it does have rules to follow, because, of course, every great device has to have one thing rule. Literally, the first thing that it says when you open this book is that the human whose name is written in this note shall die. Clear and simple. That right
Yeah.
there is enough that tells you that whoever has the book, whoever possesses it, is immediately playing the God card.
Mhm.
And I don't mean the actual God card. Like, they're actually playing the godly role. So to have such a responsibility, to have such a power, is remarkable. And it depends on the person, especially. Because we could either look at it from a Light Yagami's perspective, where he just went full out with the role. We could handle it as carefree as the next guy over, or we could simply just put it, like, try to be the good souls and try to bury it somewhere where we hope no one will ever find it.
Hmm.
Regardless, how I would handle it is basically that. Except, thing is, I wouldn't just go on any random killing spree or just start being picky and choosy about people I dislike and do like. The way I see this book being used is that, well, after all, we do have the death penalty, so that would be something useful for it. It's like till proven guilty sort of thing. But if it's just going to be used at random, like if you see this person, immediately the first judgment is this person's a bad person. He needs to be removed. That's the part about the nowadays society that I don't like, is that if with enough people who say this is a bad guy without hearing the full story entirely, is what scares me. To have whoever just agrees with everyone say that, oh, we can't have this person in the world anymore. That is a terrifying thought. So to have such a thing in anyone's possession is a nightmare.
So you'd be more on the side of hiding the notebook and kind of just in the basket of no one should have this.
Well, absolutely. After all, it's one of the most dangerous pieces in the world.
Yeah.
And
I
I,
mean,
do like to see that.
Even for fans, like this book, I think in I forget what country, but apparently this book, even as like a fan thing, has been jotted down as a like illegal thing to possess because of just
Banned in
how-
Russia.
Thank you, Russia was. I forgot it was Russia that it was banned in.
And well, to be fair, there's multiple reasons for Russia specifically. It's less that it has to do with it being the Death Note itself, and it's more because it's a reference to another religion entirely. But I see the point.
I don't know if it was about religion though, because if I could recall, it was just 'cause some kids were like carrying them around school and.
With Shinigami, which is a yokai. Just
I
saying.
mean, yeah, I feel like both of those are probably factors
Like,
as to why it was banned.
Well, the idea is that they're selling you. The idea is that it seems that it sells you like an occult item, an item of the occult or another religion, and that's what Russia is against, obviously.
I mean, I guess, but like I said, maybe I would just read a different article or something and just from a different perspective, because that's totally valid. But from what I saw, it was because, like, basically kids were using them as, like, hit lists, and obviously people thought that that was a little unacceptable. Like, they were.
Well,
Essentially, it
yeah,
was
that's the
like,
problem with the Death Note. It's exactly what it is.
Exactly. That's why, like, if you write down the name of someone in a note, even if you know it's not really gonna do it, that means you want them to die.
Yeah,
Kind of the whole idea.
yeah, the idea is a list of people's kills.
So, like,
So yeah, so I see where you're going, and this would be pretty dangerous even as regular a regular book called DeathNote, because it basically screams you want to kill this person.
well, yeah, even
So
without the whole context of the show and the manga, just the whole idea of having a little hit list that you carry around is a bit not
That's
school
dangerous.
friendly.
This is a very cool shooter level.
Exactly. It literally is. It's just hoping a Shinigami will be around to do it for you at that. It's the only difference.
True.
And even with the context of the show, technically one of my favorite parts is when Kira was mentioned. No, you're already a good Shinigami on your own, which is what makes it even terrifying. And yeah, so yeah, I could see it as a serial killer's diary if we kind of let that stay.
I mean, yeah, I'd probably be a little concerned if I found out my kid was just writing names of people they want to die in a notebook. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll be careful to be more discreet when I'll give my future nephew that notebook.
Is that so?
So watch out, Hammy.
Anyway, that's my
Uh,
overall opinion on what I would do.
Good. And I mean, it's obviously vastly different than Light's approach in the anime. But I would say that's a pretty logical, I guess, conclusion to come to would be to hide it and make sure that nobody has this power. And Hammy, what about you?
Well, honestly, it's super hard to say because I agree with both Tensa and Rex. Like, Tensa was saying he'd go after criminals and stuff, but even he acknowledged that he would probably allow it to consume him. And while that does show a bit more self-awareness than Light, per se, because I feel like Light got pretty cocky in the end, and I don't think in the beginning he ever thought it would descend into that. I still do feel like having that powerful, just, I don't know. As for Rex's opinion and, like, burying it or just like banishing it from humanity somehow, I definitely see merit in it because humans are very emotional. Like, even the most logical, like, clear-cut person has some emotion, might screw things up, write someone's person in the book, someone's name in the book in a moment of passion or due to personal bias or reason. I don't think anyone should have that power. Just like, if a person does something objectively bad, sure, they deserve to be punished. But if they do something bad specifically to one person, it's scummy, sure, but that person didn't have power to smite them and kill them. You know what I mean?
And so what is it you're saying that you would do with it?
This video is sponsored by NordVPN. VPN stands for Virtual Private Network. It's a tool that encrypts your internet traffic and hides your IP and virtual location. You might be asking yourself, why do I need this? Well, you like watching anime, right? Or shopping online? Or browsing the internet using the public Wi-Fi? But are you aware of the digital snooper? It can be anyone, such as your internet provider peeking at your internet activities, or a cyber criminal attempting to steal your credit card info, or a hacker near you trying to steal your sensitive data. This is where NordVPN comes in. It makes your internet activity private, protects you from accessing dangerous websites, and lets you enjoy your favorite anime content securely and remotely. NordVPN also allows you to overcome internet censorship. All your traffic is routed through a remote server, so you can access websites that are restricted in your country. If you want to watch anime that is only available in Japan and not in your country, then use NordVPN to connect to Japan's server. It's that easy. NordVPN is available on most devices. You can also download NordVPN from the App Store. Use our link to download NordVPN. Get started today to protect yourself.
What I would do with it, definitely. I'm not normally one to stand up on a soapbox, like, say, like, oh, moral beliefs and everything, but in my case, I feel like just saying I'd go after criminals and baddies is, like, too vague. Even just saying you're going after criminals is technically going by the code of the law. It's very flawed. Criminal is somebody persecuted by the law. So, like, there's probably people in there who, like, I don't know, committed tax fraud. It's like, yeah, sure, they were wrong for doing it, but I don't think they deserve to die.
Fun fact: I would not use on people that committed fraud.
Well, yeah,
But you bring up a good point
yeah,
because at this point it brings a question on what is a criminal, and in a sense, a criminal is someone who commits a crime by definition.
yeah.
So obviously you have to look into which crime that has been done. You have to actually see objective evidence, and you said it yourself, even the justice system is flawed. So, and in my using the notebook, never once I mentioned that I'd be perfect.
Well, of course not, and I don't think anyone would be. That's why I was talking about human emotion. This ties back into it as well.
If anything, it's very similar to the Ring of Gaijis.
Because, like, humans have their own ideas for what justice is. Like, that's great for them, but does that mean the people who deserve to be punished? Not necessarily.
And this is why I would disagree with you, because there are a lot of people that deserves to be punished. Whether that it is by death, that's another question. Because I will agree that the DeathNote is a too powerful tool to be used on petty things. So that's why my prescription on it was precisely to use it as less as possible while still using it, because power corrupts. That's the big problem. So the more I use it, yes, the more I can clear out a number of people, but it's like a shotgun. I will hit the wrong people, maybe too many. And if I keep using it and using it and using it, well, how am I better than the criminals themselves?
Well, yeah, exactly.
I can see we all have very, I guess you could say, varied things we would like to do with a Death Note.
Of course, what wouldn't you do if you had power?
Yeah. Personally, if I had a Death Note, what would I do? I think I'm in the same boat as Rek in the sense that I don't think anybody should have this power. However, I'm also in a boat where I believe that there are things that do need to change in this world. And mainly, ironically enough, I think it's mainly due to the reasons that both Tensa and Hami have brought up, which is there's people with biases, there's horrible people out there, there's people who are mainly looking out for just themselves. So the thing that I would use the Death Note for isn't so much criminals or people who've committed crimes or whatever. I can personally leave that to the justice system, although we all know that the justice system is exactly perfect. But what I would do is probably eliminate the people I'd like to consider as factors in what would otherwise be a I guess you can say a world that seeks progress and evolution. So basically, if you have political figures who are trying to halt progress because it doesn't make them money, like for example, if we look at the U.S.'s annual budget, right, the vast majority of the U.S.'s budget is actually poured into the military. I think it's $680 billion or something like that a year.
Oh, really? Wow. Well, that's unfortunate.
And then all the other organizations and part aspects of society like medical care, science, schooling, space exploration, technology research, all this stuff unless the technology research has to do with weaponry and how we can weaponize it, all those other things have extremely low budgets in comparison. So,
Yeah.
so because of that, we should, in my opinion, what I would do is probably eliminate anybody who any political power who has the power to make such things happen and do make such things happen, because money, right? Like anything that's going to make them money, that's the kind of people we're dealing with, and that's the people I would eliminate most likely. It would be to create a shift in how, like I guess you could say, first world society works in a way that would shift the prioritization of the economy to more progression, evolution, and prosperity of humanity.
And I see some brilliance in this too, because
would-
at the end of the day, warmongers are by definition criminals, because at this point it's like making crime. But at the very same time, you brought an interesting point. Allocating money into warfare instead of education and all of the basic needs that the populace needs to thrive is a very good point. And for sure, greed does poison the economy of a country.
Exactly. I wouldn't be putting myself. The thing is I don't want to eliminate people of like opposing political opinions or anything like that. It's more just of where do these powerful people put their priorities, right? And if it's not for the benefit, the greater benefit of all of us, humanity as a whole, then, and it's more just of selfish desires, then such a person shouldn't be in a position of
position of
political
power.
Exactly. They shouldn't have so much power, because why are we giving these people that power? That's my question. So
Ironically, if I see it in your hands, then I would see a lot of body drops.
there would probably be a lot of body drops, nowhere near as much as Light Yagami or people punishing criminals.
No. It would it. The reason why we would see a lot of body drops in your hands is because they're all political figures. So we would.
You mean, okay, you would see a lot of it displayed on mediums.
Yes, it's the media would never stop. Yeah, that's what I mean. Like it's obvious. Like it would not be as conspicuous because one day, this political figure died of a heart attack in his home, or this political figure just hung himself. And wait. Yesterday he was that kind of thing. But at it's really more that it would be mediatized, and at some point people would be asking what's wrong for sure. But at the same time, they would cite health problems because those people are usually well protected.
Personally, I would try to make each one look like an accident, because don't forget, the DeathNote only creates heart attacks because the reason why
you don't write the way that they die.
Exactly. If you don't write the way
You
that
have
they
40
died,
seconds to write in the death note to the person's name, and basically they die within that time frame. But if you write their name and you put in like specific details of how they die, then the effect will kick in within 6 minutes and 40 seconds.
There is that, but you could also specify times and dates and everything as well.
And also,
you write the details before the name, you can do that as well.
That's what I would do. I would start with the details and put the name in the middle of the sentence, then finish it. I was also going to mention, be careful when you write suicide, because they would just hang themselves unless you elaborate.
It would be all different means of doing it. It'd be like some suicide, some car accident, some skydiving accident. It would be all different things. So the reason why Kira was caught in the show is because he used the heart attacks kind of as a calling card, right?
That
'Cause
was
he
his
wanted,
that was his
yeah,
signature. That's the problem.
yeah,
It has to do with the fact that the moment that he began the mass murders, he never stopped making them die of different things. And yes, the heart attack was his calling, but that episode when he did the mass killing of a prison, it was not just heart attacks. There
oh
was
yeah,
a lot of them.
yeah,
Like
I know,
a lot,
but the heart attacks were definitely his
his
calling
signature.
card.
Yeah.
His signature.
The one thing I guess that made it like easy to just do heart attacks is because there is another rule in the Death Note that says you have to use a logical specification. So you can't say anything random like this man died on the toilet in outer space.
What in the
You have to make it a little more plausible to like a more everyday kind of
Yeah,
sort of incident. Like the accident itself has
You
to
could
be
actually
more.
technically you could have actually do the died in outer space in the toilet if the
or
guy was an
billionaire,
astronaut
or
and
for a
was in
billionaire.
fact in space.
Yeah,
Yeah, I was gonna say
but
writing the
yeah,
deaths of rich people would probably be fun. 'Cause, like you could
that'd
really
be.
go all out.
But essentially, that would be what I would do with the Death Note. And if I were to get caught, I would just allow myself to get caught, but probably destroy the Death Note if possible. Or
The way that I would also experiment with the Death Note is that I would give timed dates.
Mhm.
Like this person will die on X day of XYZ, so it becomes a delayed effect. And that way I could at least go on to my life and everything just seems like a flood.
Mhm. Yeah, and that I would probably do some similar things as well. But for me, yeah, I wouldn't mind if I got caught. Like I said, if in the situation where I feel like I've been caught or I'm like they're hot on my heel, I'd probably destroy the Death Note and just if I get caught, I get caught. And they can do with me as they wish. Um, like personally, I don't mind so long as its purpose was fulfilled.
In my case, I would be slightly different on that. I would write my own name there actually because it just means game over for me.
Yeah, yeah, but I
So,
wouldn't want the Death Note falling
I
into somebody
would.
else's hand.
Don't worry. I would be elaborate, and I would play the Beyond Birthday card.
Hmm.
Set the entire house on fire.
Yeah, and
As the
yourself
details.
and the Death Note.
Yes, as the details to the suicide. Yes. So that way everything's gone or like unretraceable.
Out of curiosity, what do you? So I already heard Tensa and Hami's opinion on Rex's approach to the Death Note. Rek and Hami, what is your approach? Well, what is your opinion on Tensa's approach to his approach to the Death Note?
I mean, I don't think just going after any criminals is the right thing. I would just go after severe criminals personally.
Mhm.
Although he did say later on, elaborated, he
They're
does.
still criminals at the end of the day.
Yeah, he said like he wouldn't do it to people who did like tax fraud and stuff, which does make it a little more reasonable, I guess. But even then, I feel
Well,
like...
the point is that the point is that if I were to start, it had to go with the heinous ones, but the problem lies in the idea of having absolute certainty, which is what I was trying to mention. And without absolute certainty of the heinous crime that they did was, 100, without having absolute proof that they objectively ruined people's lives on a whole, with whatever crime it was, it's much harder to use it without misusing it, essentially.
True. And what about you, Rek? What would you say your opinion on Tensa's approach is?
Well, it's an interesting approach. Do I agree with him fully? Probably not. But the idea of maintaining a certain balance in the world, maybe not a perfect one, but one that is functioning, I'm just going to use that terminology. Like, to be able to have the ability to judge whether or not this person has the right to continue or he has no right whatsoever, to remove those that have nothing left to offer and will be just giving more and more trouble as time goes on. This is just from my perspective. I would just wait and see what happens. But for Tensa, he could do it. It's his death note. I won't say anything about it because if I say anything about it, I know my name's gonna be next.
You better not! You better not!
Oh no, it's gonna be a little bit more elaborate actually.
Fair enough.
And
Anyway,
and
but that
I
is just
don't
what my
mean by
overall
adding your
opinion.
name.
Yeah.
I mean by actually handing you a piece of paper.
Well, then I'll have a Shinigami to talk to.
The idea of handing people a sheet of paper, at least to my closest friend, is that I know for certainty that I will be corrupted at some point.
Yep, and that's where your friends will come
I
in
need
to slap some sense into you.
or to end me if it's not possible. Because I know that at some point when you have a little power, you think that you're on top of the world, but at the very same time, this is where you kind of lose ground on reality, and this is when you start actually using it very greedily. Like you can tell yourself that I'm using it for good, but at the end of the day, you're just wanton killing at this point, and you just don't know the difference.
And what about everyone's opinion on Hammy's approach? Well, I think Tenth already expressed that before, but what about you, Rick? You were pretty quiet through that one. Let's see what you have to say.
I'll be honest, my opinion's somewhat similar to Tensa.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Okay. And everybody's opinion on mine. I guess we can start with Rex and Tensa, or okay, fine, Tensa first.
No, I want Rec to start this time.
Okay, all right. So, Rex, what about your opinion on my approach?
When it comes to your approach, I can see your like an imbalance of decision. Like you want to, like there's a use and there's a not use. You're not too sure. You see a right for both sides, and at the end of the day, hey man, it's your choice. Your book. Personally, I'd like to burn it, but if you want to keep it, you want to talk to Ryuk before bed.
I mean, I did
Have
say
a
I
story.
would burn it though at the end once it served its purpose.
The problem is, will it really serve its purpose?
Depends
For
on
me,
the
yeah.
user.
So,
Yeah.
if you want my opinion on your approach,
Yep.
I do think that it's very similar to mine, but the targets are different.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's as Hammy said with the idea that the definition of criminals is a little too vague.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's true that it could mean it could even mean someone who litters in a place that you're not allowed to litter. In your case, you're looking into someone that would legalize crime, if we will, or at the very least hamper people. So in this case, it's not that very different from an anarchist, but at the very same time, you're using it to bring more order. So it's basically just, to me, it seems that it's your personal objective sense of justice.
Mm-hmm.
Because at the end of the day, the way that I see your approach is that you take out the head of the enablers of people who, in fact, do bad for the rest of the people, and people that makes decisions that affects millions of people, and that will not improve their lives. That will, in fact, makes their lives harder due to a decision designed to
increase profit.
get more money in my pocket.
Yeah, basically. Yeah. All right.
So it's basically the equivalent of admonishing big pharma for making medicine a business instead of what they were actually supposed to do. Like that's how I ultimately feel.
Okay.
I mean, hey, not every production company is perfect.
There's no guarantee. They, obviously I can't control people, so people would do as they please. Like I still see like the whole freedom of will thing as very important. So if people after that point, let's say I fix the world by getting rid of the negative actors within like society and everything that are pushing it backward. Should it occur where everything's fixed and then the people who are seeking to improve society are put in power, they start improving society and all that, and then all of a sudden they just degrade into what they originally hated and everything. There's nothing I can do. And at the end of the day, I can still sleep soundly saying, well, you know what? I did my best. I tried to help people, but people don't want to help them.
It's
You
also
can't. It would just be against
ultimately
their
in the
will.
nature of people in the end, by the end of the day.
Well, yeah,
That
exactly.
that's why even me, when I would use such power, I want to have stealth saves just in case that I go off the deep end. Because no matter how much discipline that I would have, I just feel like it's an eventuality, a surefire eventuality that I would descend to darkness, as we say. And it goes with the saying of either you die as a hero or you live long enough to become a villain. It's also the fact that, let's say that on my end, I've fixed whatever issues that the Death Note could fix using it. There's no point for me to live anymore. I've fulfilled my purpose.
Yeah, this is a big true. Alrighty. Well, with that, does anybody have any perhaps closing thoughts on the subject?
I would say if you guys ever get a Death Note, don't try to sell it off the auction. This is bad juju.
Yeah.
I do actually have something in mind.
Yep.
If you got the Death Note, would you do the Shikigami deal for the eyes?
Definitely.
I'm just gonna do a quick
probably.
recap of that ability. So basically, once a human picks up the Death Note, that Death Note becomes theirs, and of course the Shikigami that was the original owner of that book now is seen by said human. The Shinigami has the distinct ability to give basically pass on its eyes to the human, because what powers it possesses is it's able to just simply look at a person and they'll know their age and how long their lifespan is like remaining.
And their name.
And their name.
Yeah.
Now, the only cost to said ability is half that human's lifespan. The example Rio give
half
was
of that human's remaining lifespan.
Yes,
yeah,
it's remaining.
Sorry. Yeah, remaining lifespan.
And the
explained it
wording
was-
is not past because it's not like the Shinigami loses his eyes. It's really granting them.
Yeah.
And this is why I said, in my case, I would use it because the way that I see the Death Note, it's a great calling in the first place. Unfortunately, with how the Death Note works, is that it's actually a random thing that falls into your hand. But if you intend to use it with great purpose, it's better to use it as efficiently as possible, even if it means that your lifespan will degrade itself quickly. One, it definitely benefits the Shinigami that, as a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, it's that you get to do your missions more smoothly I will also tell you that there is a character in Death Note in which that instead of the book that fell into their hands are Shinigami eyes.
Yeah.
Beyond birthday.
Yeah.
For the LA case file.
He was born with them.
Effectively.
Yeah.
Well, he was not born with them quite. It was not exactly what it was stated. It was more that he got them at some point.
Oh,
Yeah,
I read.
got them as well.
I remember reading that he was born with them.
That's fair.
The
and it might be exactly what you said.
Mhm.
Point being is that he's like the rare case of having Shinigami eyes without his lifespan being cut in half because he always had them.
Yeah. Alrighty. Well, yeah. So with that, I guess my answer to that would be probably not, but it would really depend. But off the bat, no. Hammy, what would you do? Would you accept the deal? Yes or no?
No, I wouldn't.
Okay. And what about you, Tensa? Would you accept the deal?
I already said I would.
Okay. And then
because as I mentioned,
No thanks.
No thanks, bro.
it has for me, it has to do with my view on life. It's not worth living a long life if you don't amount to anything. And that's what I meant by having a book equals having a great calling. It's that the best way to use it as responsibly as possible would be, in fact, to have those eyes. Obviously, there's pros to not having the eyes. But
I mean, it's a pretty big price, especially the item itself. Like, the only downside is the lifespan.
Keep in mind that I would not do it on day one. But a Shinigami does leave the deal open, and I think that it would eventually still come to it.
Oh yeah, someone would have taken up the deal, just not you.
I could force someone to take the deal for me, but that would be just dark.
Yeah.
But the point being is that it depends on what I want to use it for, and if I see that it requires my half of my lifespan to do it and to do it properly, that is totally fine. Because I was probably going to very likely, once purpose fulfilled, destroy myself and the book anyway.
Alrighty. Well, I'd say that answers that question. Well, I mean, I'd say that was a pretty interesting chat for all of us. We got to learn a lot of deep, I guess you can say, deep thoughts on the subject from each one of us, and I personally find that all the approaches to the question were pretty interesting, at least in my opinion. But yeah, no, I'd say that was a pretty good discussion right there, pretty healthy, and I'm kind of curious to see if anybody else would probably express that as well, like in other media and whatnot. So, with that being said, I would like to thank everybody for listening in. Thank you very, very much. And if you like what you heard, be sure to stay on top of the official Otaku Crew news by checking out our social media on Twitch, which is the official Otaku Crew, on TikTok, also the official Otaku Crew, and Instagram, which is Think Otaku Crew. So check us out, especially on Instagram. You know, we always like to post little pictures, right? So Instagram, Think Otaku Crew. This is Van, Tensa, Rek, and Hammy signing out until next time. The official Otaku Crew loves and appreciates you all. Peace.